My presentation is a dissertation on determinants of organizational culture and lean management, basis of a proposed green workplace environment. Let us begin to this section. This section will discuss how the candidate come up into this concept of the study. This research addresses the management dilemmas or issues in distribution and retail chain of stores industry. To this industry frequently expand their business but neglected to scrutinize the actual performances to its retail chain of stores. Even though the management found some remedy and reiterate that remedy several times, is still ineffective result. Also, all stakeholders of the company, specifically the management and employees, are lack of knowledge on lean management or lean thinking to identify those organization ways. After the series of internet and web-based research from credible articles and researches, like in Harvard Business University, Stanford University journals, eJournal.ph, and other credible and accessible articles of the local literature, the Research Hub has just found out to this article. The focal point of the study are these 8 scholarly inquiries and 4 null hypotheses that the researcher would like to prove the significant relationship and difference of the two variables, which is the organizational culture and lean management. Please refer to page 23 and 24 of the submitted dissertation to each one of you for details. Organizational culture is usually perceived as the employee's view of the business and a mutual mentality of doing their jobs in communicating with various stakeholders in the company. In this study's organizational culture and lean iceberg model is based on the combination of the iceberg model theory of omission of organizational culture and Webster model of cultural types. The details of this framework refer to page 22. The area of consideration of organizational culture that researcher would like to focus on the culture that describes the competing value system stated to okayonline.com website. First, clan culture makes for a pleasant working atmosphere. People's dominant characteristics are cohesiveness, participation, coordination, and a sense of belonging. Second, the advocacy culture creates a diverse and productive climate. The employees are adaptive, imaginative, and integrative are the most popular characteristics of this society. Third, market culture, which promotes a result-oriented company that focuses on completing tasks. Competitiveness and goal achievement are the two most important characteristics of consumer culture. It focuses on the market dominance and competitive advantage. Lastly, a formalized and organized work environment is a part of the hierarchy culture because of the strategic focus on stability, predictability, and smooth operation. This is governed by order, rules and regulations, and uniformity. The question here is why lean? Lean because the organization ways. These ways can be identified using a lean thinking tool to classify various ways in the company in order to develop a plan by lean management to optimize job and production or operation processes and minimize running costs by incorporating lean green practices. Lean thinking, according to the Lean Office website, the company has 4 different forms of ways. The methods of moving business from one functional field of the company to another are referred to as process ways, information, physical environment, and people in the organization. Lean methodology is about continuously improving of work processes, purposes, and people. Instead of holding total control of work processes and keeping the spotlight, lean management encourages shared responsibility and shared leadership. The reason why introduce the green philosophy concept in any business industry to their supply chains. One of those lean green practices is green workplace environment, a business program to encourage environmental sustainability through the use of environmentally sustainable materials, machineries, processes, and manpower, as well as their goods on the market to protect not only workers but also customers. This study is significant to the owners and operators of retail chain of stores and outlets, employees, society, researcher herself, and future researchers. The methods are consist of the following. How must be done of this study? The focal point of the analysis consists of 281 employees in Metro Manila from 10 corporations of Citigroup companies, 950 outlets in more than 400 retail chain of stores across the Philippines, including SM, Fisher Mall, Robinsons, Ayala Malls, Rustan's, Pure Gold, Cash and Carry, Shopwise, Gaisano Market, and a lot more. Carrying known brand in the industry like Dr. Brown's, Sanrio, Dear Daniel, Bibita, Garfield, and Evenflow. In this study includes our designated functional areas in distribution and retail chain of stores such as procurement, product development and design, human resources, warehouse and logistics, sales and marketing, finance and accounting. The research design, participants, instrument, statistical treatment based on the following methods done by the proponent. The statistical result according to the following analysis and interpretation. The figures and tables are presented and mapped out to this slide. To answer SOP 1, refer to Results section. After examining the results of the survey from the 281 participants, they were described to be mostly in younger years, 20 years old and below, undergraduate of college or vocational course, and majority belong to rank and file, as well as secondary school graduate were the most employable in the company. Also, a significant number of these workers belong to rank and file of the sales and marketing department, and those who were deployed in various retail chain of store branches in Metro Manila. Warehouse and logistics staff were next in line. To answer SOP 2, these tables display the effect of the significant and non-significant relationship between two variables according to each clusters of indicators according to age, educational attainment, and level of responsibilities, designated functional area, employment status, and years in the company. To sum it up, when looking at the significant and non-significant relationship in the overall statistical findings, based on the participant profile, these two variables are statistically reciprocal in the outcomes. To answer SOP 3, the significant differences in organizational culture and lean management between the classes of the participants' employment status reinforce the reciprocal findings. It means that, with the exemption of adhocracy type of culture, the responses of slightly different groups of participants in the organizational culture between and within groups, while lean management results is no major variation in the measurement of organizational waste between within groups of participants. This indicates that employees may contribute to organization waste regardless of their employment status in the company. To answer SOP 4, shows the detailed indicators of the organizational culture determinants. For clan, adhocracy, and market culture, the average frequencies from the participants was once a week for how many times they were committed and observed the existing culture in the company. This culture clearly represented the competing principle in organizational culture of emerging distribution and retail chains of store in the country. The employees committed 2 to 6 times a week, which is very common in the hierarchy culture. Since the organization is dominated by order, rules and regulations, and uniformity, the statistical results will be with overall mean as presented to this graph. To answer SOP 5, this indicates a significant linear relationship between the two variables. All organizational clan, adhocracy, market, and hierarchy cultures show high to moderate relationship to answer SOP 6 shows the indicators of business participants' assessment to the lean management of the employees' lean thinking. Employees committed their process waste once a week when it came to the company waste of lean management, the ways that cause people to wait longer for stuff such as organizational processes, paperwork processes, and so on. While in the ways they were committed and described as less than once a week in information, physical working environment, and people from their work output itself. The statistical result will be with overall mean as presented to this graph. To answer SOP 7, the data indicated a significant linear relationship between the two variables, lean management as to organizational information and physical environment waste were related to organizational clan, adhocracy, market, and hierarchy culture. The four null hypotheses resulted to the following. Null hypothesis number 1. The participant profile is significant in organizational culture resulted the null hypothesis reject. Indicates that there was a connection between organizational culture determinants and the lean management impact in the organization. The null hypothesis for organizational culture in terms of educational achievement and lean management in terms of age and job status was found to be failed reject, indicating that no correlation existed in the organization. Null hypothesis 2. Organizational culture based on employee status resulted in the reject null hypothesis, indicating that the substantial relationship did exist in the company based on the employee status category. Null hypothesis 3. In the case of lean management, the null hypothesis was rejected, indicating that a statistically relevant relationship existed within the organization. Null hypothesis number 4. Since the employment status has a strong correlation with organizational culture but not with lean management, the null hypothesis is interpreted a reject in organizational culture, implying that a significant difference did exist but failed reject to lean management. As a result, the majority of the indicators for the two variables were found to reject the null hypothesis, clearly demonstrating the ways in the company by lean thinking. This indicates how organizational culture affects every employee's job in the company. To answer SOP 8 shows the strategy, tactics, methodology, tools, and so on through the proposed green workplace environment, which is presented in the Appendix B, page 71. The structure adapted from ACME Strategic Plan 2014 to 2016 as a research output of the study. Again, the recap of statistical results are mapped out and presented to this slide. In the conclusion, the researcher found out the following. The contributions and directives of this study are as follows. My reflection to this study is that the first step towards solving your productivity issues is defining what the problem is in the first place. First, figure out what you want to improve and specifically how. And I can relate to the quote from Steve Jobs saying, "If you define the problem correctly, you almost have the solution." This is Benita Aquino Meneses, Doctor in Business Administration candidate. Have a blessed day to all. Thank you.